Why Dave Ramsey is wrong. In this educational episode, I'm going to address an article written by the Ramsey Group, maybe even Dave Ramsey or one of his staff, titled The Truth About Indexed Universal Life. And I'm going to explain why Dave Ramsey is wrong about IUL. So get ready. You're going to understand some things that obviously he and his team do not understand. So I'm Doug Andrew. I've been a financial strategist and retirement planning specialist now for nearly 5 decades, helping people optimize their financial assets, minimize taxes, and empower what I call their authentic wealth. And I've been doing this as longer than Dave Ramsey. I happen to know him, and I know he had some bad experiences early in his life. I lost a home in foreclosure early in my life, and that's when I learned that real estate equity was not liquid safe, nor did it earn a rate of return. And so I chose to keep all of my investments in a position of liquidity and safety of principal, earning predictable rates of return tax-free. So I chose a certain pathway with my clientele, and I understand and respect Dave Ramsey chose to pound another key about getting out of debt and doing it his way and not leveraging. Actually, leverage is a marvel or miracle, and I often teach that leverage without liquidity is stupidity. Most of the time, many simple advisor will say, let's just hurry and get out of debt as quickly as we possibly can, and then they get into trouble when they lack liquidity, okay? But what I want to address is an article that he has posted about the truth about indexed universal life insurance, because it's very obvious from the second paragraph on that they don't know what they don't know about indexed universal life. And so that's what disturbs me the most. I want people to actually know the truth, and they are not telling the truth in this, and I honestly think they don't know the truth, okay? And so it sort of reminds me back during the presidential administration of George H.W. Bush. You may not remember, but his vice president was Dan Quayle. And Dan Quayle oftentimes got criticized by the media because he sometimes was not aware of some of the things going on in the world. And people questioned, is he really qualified if he became the president of the United States? And there was a joke that went around when he was down in Latin America that he said, oh, golly, I wish I would have studied Latin more when I was in school so I could have conversed with those people. Well, it was a joke, but it meant, golly, sometimes he didn't really understand maybe the languages or what have you. Well, this is what concerns me. It's obvious from this article that I'm going to go through that the Ramsey Group does not really understand the language of indexed universal life, and it's very obvious right from the second paragraph on. And there's 6 places in this article where they totally reveal their ignorance regarding indexed universal life. Now, in my very first book, Missed Fortune, I say in there that the worst form of ignorance is when we reject or we poo-poo something that we know very little or nothing about. And that's why I'm concerned in this video episode. So just to help you understand, I'm normally not one that would, go after or try to attack another financial advisor, even if I don't agree with their approach to things. But it's obvious that they are not holding back. This is what they begin the article with. Life insurance is something everyone needs. I agree. But there's one kind of coverage getting attention over the past few years that nobody should have. That's a pretty strong statement. It's called indexed universal life insurance. And then it says this: it's a Frankenstein's monster ripoff product that tries to mix insurance with a gimmicky investment, but winds up falling short in both departments. Sound too bad to be true? It's very real, and you should avoid it at all costs. I read that kind of vernacular and I go, oh my heavens, you don't know what you don't know, because we have thousands of extremely successful, savvy people who own indexed universal life insurance policies, and they have earned average rates of return like I have of 9.62%. If you understand the rule of 72, your money will double every 7.5 years at 9.6%. And I've had many, many people who maybe deposited $500,000 over a 5-year period into a properly structured, max-funded indexed universal life insurance policy. And that $500,000 doubled to $1 million in 7.5 years, doubled to $2 million in another 7.5, to $4 million in another 7.5, and then to $8 million. So at the end of 30 years, they have $8 million. Yeah, we've got clients who have $8 million in their indexed universal life policies, generating $600,000 to $800,000 a year of tax-free income without depleting principal. That will knock the socks off of the same amount of money in most IRAs or 401ks invested in the market in this country, because you only have to earn an average of let's say 10 and net 9 in an IUL, and that's not taxes you're paying, that's the cost of the insurance that the IRS says has to be there, which they say are expensive fees. No, that's money that would otherwise go out the window in unnecessary tax. In an IRA or 401k earning 12%, which Dave Ramsey says you ought to average 12. Actually, most people are not averaging 12, but if you did, you earn 12, and in a 33% federal and state tax bracket, after paying tax at 12, you're only netting 8. After fees, you're only netting 7. Would you rather earn 12 and net 7 or earn 10 and net 9? That's what I've done in max-funded indexed universal life. Now, a lot of these naysayers, they say, well, I've never seen one that does that. And I go, well, really? I would agree that probably the vast majority of universal life policies sold in America were not structured correctly and funded properly. But to say, I've never seen one, so I don't think they exist, would be as shallow as saying, well, have you seen your brain? No. Well, how do you know that exists? Folks, these are incredible when they're structured correctly and funded properly. But let me just go through and highlight some of the things right off the bat. I mentioned in the second paragraph, it very obvious to me, they don't know what they don't know. It says, indexed universal life insurance uses your premiums to pay for 2 features. Bullet point number 1, a death benefit for your family or estate. Okay? Second bullet point, a cash value account that's tied to an indexed fund. That's why it's called indexed. Wrong. I was one of the very first agents in America in 1997 when ING came out with the first indexed universal life. And ever since the very first one, and now there's probably a couple of hundred companies that offer indexed universal life, I've never seen one take the cash values of that insurance policy and invest it in an indexed fund. Right off the bat, I go, they don't even know what they're talking about. They're making assumptions here. It not only says that in that paragraph, but in every single paragraph in this article, it keeps talking about the cash value that is invested in an index mutual fund. Now, thank goodness they go through and they explain what is an index mutual fund, because I was curious. Dave Ramsey is a big proponent of investing in mutual funds. Do you know from 1974 when I first started, I had a Series 1 securities license. I could sell any stock, bond, mutual fund in America. By 1974 to 1980, I ended up with over 3,000 clients I was responsible for in 13 Western states. And we were selling them term insurance and investing the difference in mutual funds. I was a huge buy term, invest the difference proponent, just like Dave Ramsey is today. And then what happened in 1980? E.F. Hutton, who was not an insurance company, they were a brokerage firm. They said, what are we thinking? Why don't we use the multi-trillion-dollar insurance industry, which is not only the backbone of America, but the backbone of the world, and they're the best money managers in the world. Let's put money into insurance policies And let's do the opposite. Instead of trying to get X amount of life insurance for the least premium, let's get the least amount of insurance the IRS will let us get away with and put in the most premium the IRS allows. And this thing will turn into a tax-free cash cow, because in the Internal Revenue Code, now for over 108 years, money inside of a permanent life insurance policy accumulates tax-free under Section 72E, all the growth, the dividends and everything, interest and dividends. You can access the money tax-free under Section 7702, and when you ultimately die, anything left in there blossoms and transfers income tax-free under Section 101A. Nothing else in the Internal Revenue Code does that. But see, it was E.F. Hutton that said, let's take the least amount of insurance. Now, there's a lot of agents that still don't understand how to do this, but it means clear back in 1980, I had clients put in $500,000. Back then, you could put it in one fell swoop. And they immediately started to turn on $50,000 a year of tax-free income. They were earning 11 3/4 to 15.5%, which was better than the mutual funds they had been owning. They were never happier than when they got their money out of the market. They were earning, let's go clear down to 11, earning 11 and netting 10. What was that 1%? It was the cost of the insurance that the IRS had to be there, or it wouldn't be tax-free. But 500,000, and they turned on 50,000 of tax-free income. They've been doing it ever since. You show me what you would have to be earning in a mutual fund to net 10% after tax fees and everything else. And so sometimes I look at articles and I go, where have you been? Okay. But I'll admit the vast majority of universal life that was sold was not structured correctly to do what I'm talking about. But that is why E.F. Hutton came up with the idea. So I've had thousands of clients utilize universal life, and then interest rates came down. And in 1997, they introduced indexed universal life. And you wouldn't believe how many advisors, like Dave Ramsey, I guess come by it honestly, they assume that indexed universal life means it's like a variable universal life, where you're taking the cash value and putting it into an indexed mutual fund. No, I've never owned a variable product. I never will. My clients were never happier than when I got them out of the volatile stock market. So I'm going to explain simply what indexed universal life is. It is not an indexed mutual fund. And 6 times in this article, they keep talking about indexed universal life means they're taking the cash values and investing it in an indexed mutual fund. No, they're not. That's putting money in the market. Let me put it this way. If you owned an indexed universal life in the year 2008, when the market dropped 30, 40%, if you had $1 million of cash value in the S&P 500 in that index, at the end of that year, your million would have been worth only about $600,000. I don't care if it's in the market or if it was in an index fund. Our clients who owned indexed universal life in 2008 did not lose one dime due to that market downturn. If they had $1 million at the beginning of that year, they had $1 million at the end of that year, they did not lose one dime. They may not have made anything, but they didn't lose because it's not invested in an index mutual fund. This is what they're assuming. And immediately I go, they don't know what they don't know. So then they go through and they talk about, the fees are extremely expensive. Well, then you haven't seen one done correctly. Usually my clients, over the life of their IUL policies, if they earn 11, they net 10. If they earn in a given year 16, they net 15. I've had clients earn 25 and net 24. In March of 2020 to March of 2021, many of our clients got credited 61.33%. Some got credited 158%. We had a client in March of 2020 in his IUL policy that had $850,000 of cash value. 1 year later, in March of 2021, because of COVID-19, the market went down and came back up again. He got credited 61.33%, over $500,000. He ended up with $1,382,000 of cash value after 1 year. Now, if the next year the market had crashed 25, 30, 40%, he would not have lost one dime of the $500,000 he made from March of 2020 to March of 2021. That's called lock in your gains and reset. I'm positive from reading this article that if I ask the Ramsey team, what does it mean to lock in your gains and reset? I would get a deer in the headlight look from them because they would have no clue what I'm talking about. You lock in your gains and reset every single year. So this is why none of our clients lost a dime in 2008, because it wasn't in an index fund. And the first 90 days of 2009, most of our clients locked in gains that year of 16% tax-free after not losing a dime in 2008. People who had their money in the market, it took until 2012 to make back what they lost. So when people start criticizing Index Universal Life, they say, trust us, okay? This is a ripoff. You're only going to get modest returns. Well, my average client has been earning between 7 to 10% tax-free, but there's some years they get credited 16, 25, 61, and 158%. We've had many, many clients who, after 10 years, their cash value in their IUL policies far exceeds the illustrated amount at 9% when they took out the policy, because we used to illustrate at 9, now we only illustrate it at 5.5 or 6%. We usually under-promise and way over-deliver because we know how to structure them correctly. So let's just cut to the chase. What is an Index Universal Life? What is an index fund? They explain an index fund is where your money is invested in a mutual fund in the market where it's volatile, and an index like the S&P 500, which is a common index, that's a measuring tape. If the Standard & Poor's 500 companies, if it's up, okay, you invest in an index fund, you're just spreading it out. So as they say, you get an average of what the S&P does. Yeah, people do that to diversify, and they claim in this article, oh, we can do better than that by picking the stocks. Okay, so what? Maybe you can earn better than the index fund. Most index funds will average 9.14% over a 20-year period. That's before tax. Most people buy and sell at the wrong times. Dalbar, who studies investor behavior, says the average retiree with money in the market is only really earning 3.49%. Why? They could be earning 9.14 if they left their money in there, if they bought and held, but they panic when the market starts to go down 20, 25, 30%, and they sell low. And then they wait till the market goes up, and then they buy high. So the average return is only 3.5%, which is what precipitated the 4% rule in the financial services industry. They only want you to pull out 4% a year. On $1 million nest egg, $40,000 a year. Why? Because the average person is only earning 3.5%. And that's going to slowly deplete your nest egg, but hopefully not before your LE, your life expectancy. Why would you settle for 4% payouts? $1 million nest egg generating $40,000? Even if you earn 12% like Ramsey says you should, Dalbar says, no, you'll probably only average 9. After tax, if you're earning 9, you'll net 6 in a 33% combined federal and state tax bracket. If you're earning 12, you'll be lucky to net 8. I can earn 11 and net 10. I've earned 11.17 and netted 10.07, usually within 1 percentage point or thereabout of the gross rate of return because I structure it correctly. So what is indexing? An indexed universal life means this. I'm going to super simplify this. Let's say that I have $1 million of cash value in my IUL policy, okay? And it doesn't matter if you have 100,000, 10,000, 10 million, you can extrapolate from this example. If I have $1 million in my IUL policy, it is safe in the insurance company and it's earning their general account portfolio rate. Now, insurance companies are conservative. This is where banks and credit unions put 30 to 40% of their tier 1 assets for liquidity and safety. We learned this in 2008 when 400 banks went under, 900 more were on the brink of going under. The federal government asked the 5 major banks in America to disclose where they had their tier 1 assets for liquidity and safety. Guess where banks disclosed? In insurance companies. Now, I'm going to simplify this if you understand how money works, and the Ramsey Group should understand this. If you put your money in a bank and the bank is paying you a measly 1%, every million they borrow of OPM, other people's money, the bank is paying out $10,000 a year in interest. Are they just a benevolent institution? They're taking 30 to 40% of their tier 1 assets and they're putting it into insurance companies, the backbone of America. And they were earning in 2008 an average of 5%. on the general account portfolio of the insurance company. What's that? The insurance company is like a very, very conservative mutual fund. They put money in AAA and AA bonds, some on mortgages on shopping malls and skyscrapers, but they only loan 50% loan to value. If they have to foreclose on a skyscraper or a shopping mall, they come out smelling like a rose, okay? That's why we have very few insurance company failures. In fact, in the Great Depression, some real estate dropped 80%. Banks closed, 40% never reopened again. How many legal reserve insurance companies went under in the Great Depression? 0. They came through crediting 2.5%, 3.5%. I knew I could do better than that. That's why I was a proponent of buy term invest the difference from 1974 to 1980 until I learned about universal life. E.F. Hutton said, let's buy term invest the difference under a tax-free umbrella. It's like buy term invest the difference on steroids. Okay, I got it. That's all universal life is buy term invest the difference under a tax-free umbrella. So, what happened in 2008? When the banks were failing, there was not one single legal reserve insurance company that went under in 2008. There were a few that were like for 90 days insolvent because they couldn't call their mortgages due or whatever. And they maybe had a little bit of stimulus money for about 90 days, but they paid every bit of it back. They came through with flying colors out of the thousands of legal reserve insurance companies compared to banks. So it's the last domino that would fall. But if I have $1 million sitting in the insurance company in an IUL policy, if I feel bearish about America in a year, I can just settle for the general account portfolio. If I think like we're headed into a recession, I'll just say, just pay me the general account portfolio rate. Back in the 1980s, interest rates were high. CDs at banks were paying 10. With my IUL policies, actually universal life from 1980 to 1997, I never got credited less than 11 3/4. I earned as high as 15.5. So I just settled for the general account portfolio rate. But when interest rates started coming down to 8, 7, 6, 5, then they came out with indexing. Now, this is what I can do. If I feel bearish about America, I can settle for the general account portfolio rate. Let's say that's 4%. Okay. So the insurance company on their mortgages and their bonds, they're earning 5. They need one of those percentage points for their profit. I'm going to net 4. Okay. So at $1 million, I can settle for 4%, 40,000, which is 4 times what banks are paying. But at least I'm earning 4% instead of losing money in a mutual fund when the market dives. But if I feel bullish about America, which I normally do because out of a 10-year period, usually there's 7 up years compared to 3 down years, I can link my returns to an index of my choice or indices of my choice that the insurance company offers. So did you notice I use the term link? I can link my returns to an index or indices of my choice. I could use the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, the Russell 2000, the Barclays US Dynamic Balance Index. I can diversify big time. There's all kinds of ways I can diversify between a 1-year point-to-point, a 2-year point-to-point, a 5-year, and I can use multipliers. I'll just summarize these, and you can learn more on this channel. But when people say, Doug, I've never seen a universal life insurance policy earn 16% or 25% or 61%, I don't understand what you're talking about. Well, then you haven't seen one structured correctly. So how do we achieve this? When you feel bullish about America and you think the economy is probably going to be growing in the next year or two, you tell the insurance company that offers indexed universal life, link. And you can link and do dollar cost averaging on the 15th of each month, January to January of the next year, February to February, March to March, or you can do it in a lump sum. But when you say link, you then tell them the index. I could take 30% of my million and link it to the S&P 500 index, 30% to the Dow, 30% to the Barclays, and leave 10% earning the general account portfolio rate of 4% interest. I can diversify like crazy, okay? Now, what does it mean to link? Listen close, Dave Ramsey. I am not telling the insurance company to take one dime of the $1 million of cash value in that policy and invest it in the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones or in the stock market. It is not invested in an indexed mutual fund or any kind of mutual fund. Do you understand that? The $1 million stays safe in the insurance company, earning 4, 5, let's just say 4. Well, then what does it mean to link? I'm telling the insurance company, I think the economy is going to go up. So I'm going to relinquish that 4% interest you're paying me on the $1 million. You can do whatever you need to do with that $40,000 in this example, that 4%. You can do whatever you need to do with that 4% interest to have the wherewithal to pay me whatever the increase in the S&P does in the next year, or if it's a 2-year or a 5-year, you can use that. So the insurance company, they're the smartest investors in the world. What do they do with that $40,000 in this example? They're buying options, upside options in the S&P, if I chose the S&P, or the Dow, or the Russell 2000. They're buying upside options. They're the number one purchaser of options in the world. So you say, well, that's in the market. Well, it's buying options, but what happens? If the S&P goes up 8, that 40,000 of options gives the insurance company $80,000 to pay you. They have the wherewithal to pay you what the S&P did. If it goes up 12%, they'll pay you $120,000, 12% on your $1 million. Based upon the price of options, they may cap it at 12 or 16. Many times they will have a cap, or if you go 2 years, they'll cap it at 19. If you go 5 years point to point, there is no cap. Or you can choose a 1-year point to point, like March 15th to March 15th of the next year, like we did in March of 2020 to March of 2021. The market went down 30%. We said link. Why? Because the chance the market was going to be up substantially was pretty likely. So people link to a 1-year point to point with no cap. When the insurance company buys options for that, they will subtract 5%. There's a 5% fee to go for it. Normally, if the market only went up 12, minus 5, you'd only net 7. That year, because of COVID-19, the market went up 66.33%, minus 5. Our clients got credited 61.33%. That's how that client with $850,000 ended up making over $500,000 in 1 year on his IUL policy. You show me an index fund that did that, okay? And so this is the beauty behind indexing. That money that you're relinquishing is the interest. Now, let's say the market crashes, like 2008. We were cheering. Our clients were, go, go. If they had their IUL invested in an indexed fund, they would have lost 40%. Their $1 million would have gone down to $600,000. Our clients didn't lose one dime. They still had their $1 million. They didn't make anything, but they didn't lose. Because those options, $40,000 in this example of options, would have expired worthless. But you don't lose your $1 million. Your $1 million was safe in the insurance company. The insurance company doesn't have any authority to put your $1 million in the market in an index fund. Your $1 million has to stay safe in the insurance company earning 4. How can they afford to pay you 8, 12, or whatever? Because they buy options with that. And if you want, you can even allocate another 5% of your $1 million, $50,000 to buy options, and they'll pay you double what the S&P does. We've had clients in March of 2020 to March of 2021 that said, you can take 7.5%. If the market crashes 40%, we don't want to lose $400,000 on our $1 million, but we're willing to give up $75,000 of our $1 million. And if the market goes up, the insurance company will pay 2.7 times what the S&P does. And clients who chose the 1-year point to point with no cap, they got 61.33%. Many of them got 2.7 times that, which is 158%. But if the market crashes, they would have only lost 7.5%, not 40% if the market dove 40%. Now, if this is going over your head, no wonder the Ramsey team doesn't understand this. But as soon as I started reading the article, I went, oh my heavens, talk about, they don't even know what they don't know. They're assuming indexed universal life means you're investing in an indexed fund. Nothing could be further than the truth. So An index fund, your money is in the market. You will lose. It's like a variable life, and I've never owned one. When you use indexed universal life, your money is safe in the insurance company. You're relinquishing the interest on your money to fund an options budget, so the company has the wherewithal to pay you 8, 12, 60% if the market goes up. But if the market goes down, the options expire worthless and you still have your principal. This is the beauty behind indexed universal life. It accumulates tax-free. You can access your money tax-free. I've had many clients who have accumulated $1 million, $2 million, $4 million, $8 million, and they're able to access a 10% payout on an $8 million IUL policy. I'm talking about cash in the policy, $800,000 a year of tax-free income. It doesn't show up anywhere on their 1040 tax return. The IRS knows they're receiving it, but they know it's tax-free. Nothing else comes close to this. That's why my clients were never happier than when I got them out of the stock market and into indexed universal life, because they're out of the market. It's not in an index fund. So I have over 100 questions that I could ask some of these advisors, like the Ramsey team, but I'm going to read just 5. And you will probably get a deer in the headlight look from these advisors if you ask them these questions, and we're going to superimpose them up here on the screen. But here's what I would ask. How does TEFRA, DEFRA, and TAMRA tax citations play into a permanent life insurance policy structured for living benefits, not just the death benefit? Now, if they don't know what TEFRA, DEFRA, and TAMRA means, that's a sign, it's a red flag. If they go, I've heard of those terms, but or if they try to make up an answer, that's a red flag. Question number 2. What is the GSP, and how soon can an IUL policy be max funded for a 50-year-old male? They should know the answer to that question right off the top of their head. If they don't even know what GSP means, that's a red flag. Question number 3. How does the amount of insurance that is being charged on a max funded IUL dramatically reduce? They say in the article, the cost of insurance gets more expensive as you get older. Well, then how does the actual amount of insurance that's being charged by the insurance company dramatically reduce as much as 95% by the 20th year of the policy? IUL policies that I've owned for 20 years cost me 1/20th what they did when I was 20 years younger. The cost of insurance actually gets cheaper as you get older when they're structured correctly. Most of these guys, they don't even understand why. It's because you're self-insuring. You are becoming self-insured by the 20th year. If I put in $500,000 and the minimum death benefit for a 60-year-old is $1 million, that $500,000 doubles to $1 million within 7.5 years. In 7.5 years now, there is no net amount at risk. The insurance company is only going to charge you for the net amount at risk. If the cash value equals or exceeds the original death benefit, there is no amount at risk to the insurance company. You're now self-insured. Your cash value has become the death benefit. You wouldn't believe how many insurance agents do not understand what I just said, okay? Question number 4. If an IUL policy holder has $1 million of cash value in their IUL policy linked to the S&P 500 index, and the market dropped 40% in 1 year, as it did in 2008, how much would the cash value have reduced due to the market crash in that year? Now, if they say 40%, it's an index fund, that's the S&P. They don't have a clue what they're talking about. It would not have reduced one dime. It would have still been worth $1 million, because that's what happened in 2008. They didn't lose a dime during that crash. So what amount would be in an S&P 500 index fund at the end of the same period? $1 million would have only been worth about $600,000. So they're making the total wrong assumption, thinking that indexed universal life is money invested in an index fund. Is that making sense now? Here's the 5th question, and I have another 95 I could be asking, but if you get a deer in the headlight look from an advisor asking them these questions, that's a red flag. Here we go. How does an IUL insurance policy during the life of the contract earn an internal rate of return I'm talking about cash on cash, the premiums you're paying into it. How does it earn an internal rate of return within 1% of the gross rate of return? In other words, if the IUL policy earned an average of 11, how is it netting 10% cash on cash tax-free rate of return on every premium dollar you put into that? Okay. And if they can't answer that and say, well, okay, what if I could show you a policy earning 11, netting 10? Why isn't that better than a mutual fund earning 12%, which they claim you ought to be able to earn, netting only 8% after taxes and fees? Would you rather be in a volatile mutual fund earning maybe 12 to net 8 or even 7 after taxes and fees? Or would you rather earn 11 and net 10 tax-free without having your money subject to market downturns? It's a no-brainer question. And so hopefully, even though I've gone a little bit on this video, I'm very passionate about this. And this is why sometimes I finally get a little bit fed up when I read an article that poo-poos something that I know the truth, and they act like they know the truth. And in the second paragraph and 6 additional times, they make a total false assumption about what indexed universal life is. So hopefully this has been beneficial. Share this with people who have been misled by such articles. And if you want to learn more, watch some of the other educational videos on this very channel. If you want to learn more about how to structure an IUL policy correctly to fund it properly, to perform as a superior capital accumulation tool, far superior than IRAs and 401ks and so forth, I would recommend you study my 11th book called The Laser Fund. You simply can claim your free copy. These retail for $20 on Amazon, but go to laserfund, laserfund.com, or click on the link below. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling, have some skin in the game, and I'll cover the rest of that cost, and I will pay for the book. It's 300 pages. Now, it's actually 2 books in one. This side, the white side, is about 200 pages, 14 chapters, with all the charts and graphs and explanations of how this works. If you learn more by stories, you flip the book over and you read this one. This is about 100 pages, 12 chapters with 62 chicken soup for the financial soul stories on how the Laser Fund is a superior capital accumulation tool, not just for retirement, but college funding for your kids. This knocks the socks off of a 529 plan. Working capital for your business, real estate management, emergency funds, on and on. It's like a financial Swiss Army knife, the dream solution for all kinds of financial goals. Nothing else allows you to accumulate your money tax-free, access that money tax-free, and when you die, it blossoms and transfers tax-free. And the internal rate of return can be within 1% of the gross rate of return when you structure it correctly. And when the market goes down, you do not lose a dime due to that market downturn. And you make money when the market goes up because your money is not invested in an indexed fund. Indexing is a strategy. An index fund is a commodity. Do you understand the difference? Learn more. This is about your brighter future. And if you want to talk to an IUL specialist who knows how to create an illustration correctly, you can also check that out when you're in there claiming your free copy of this book. This is about you and your brighter future. I don't want you to go down a dead-end street of buying term and investing the difference and then having to pay tax on it at the end of the day. Buy term, invest the difference under a tax-free umbrella, and it will be like buy term, invest the difference on steroids.